Is there light in every single situation that we go through? Is there a bigger picture? Is every single challenge meant to bring forth light into our lives, enlighten our lives, teach us something? It doesn't feel good when situations are painful, when we're going through challenges. Where's the light? It doesn't feel good to us emotionally, mentally, physically, we're drained. It feels like a tragedy. It feels like the end of the world. It feels like our life is turning upside down. It wasn't the script we created in our heads. This is not how our life is supposed to go. And we may easily think to ourselves, this is some sort of mistake. This wasn't meant to be and it wasn't meant to happen. The truth of the matter is, every single situation in our life is meant to bring more light into our lives by one important principle. If we choose to be that shining light, we can choose to be that shining light this Hanukkah. Many times situations present themselves as very negative, as very bitter and very challenging. But yes, there's still light in it. There's still good that's coming out of it. There's a reason why this happened. We may not see the reason. Sometimes we're lucky enough to see the reason. But the truth of the matter is, there's always light in the situation, whether it's long term or short term. Before I finished my degree as a special educator, I had to practice some fieldwork hours, meaning I finished my degree and then I had to show some work in a school, actual work. And they gave me a school to work in with students who were in an integrated setting, meaning some of the students were typically developing and some of the students were challenging behaviorally, but it wasn't anything severe. It wasn't anything where the students had incredible learning disabilities or very they needed a lot of intervention and help. It was mild. And I was excited. I said, oh, I can do this. They're just a little behavior. I was very excited. I was really looking forward to it. Until last minute, they gave me a phone call, the school, and they said, we're sorry, but that position has closed. We have a setting for you to work in with special needs students in a self-contained classroom. In a classroom with exceptional behaviors and diagnoses. This is what it was, an autistic classroom. I mean, severely autistic, where the children were not talking, were very aggressive, would run out of the building, run out of the school. And I was petrified. I was so scared. Not because there's anything to be afraid of from these kids, but because I was just not experienced. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how to work with children like these. And I just wanted my degree. I wanted to start working. I just wanted to start living my life. And I was scared. And I remember even working in the school many years ago. I mean, this was, more than a decade ago. I remember the classroom was in the basement because they had to give time for the students if they were to run out of the building, more time to run around so we can catch them if we need to. I mean, I had very, very difficult students and I didn't know how to work with them in the beginning. And I had an exceptional teacher. I was blessed with an exceptional mentor and I learned from her. She was amazing. She loved her job. She loved working with these type of children. And I learned a lot. And then when I started working on my own, when I started working as a professional in the field, I only wanted special needs children which are in the self-contained classroom. And for the past decade, I have been working only with them. Now, in the beginning, it seemed like horrific. It seemed like a tragedy. That's not the script. It's not supposed to happen. But yet, going through down this path, I learned so much on how to teach children, much more than I would have in an integrated setting. And in the beginning, it may seem the challenges that we go through or life that we live, it may seem like something is wrong with the picture. This wasn't the script that I wrote for my life. And the truth of the matter is, yes, Hashem writes the script. He knows the best. He sees the bigger picture. He only gives us what's best for us. And at the same time, we must remember there is a light in every situation only if you choose to acknowledge it, only if you choose to bring yourself forth and shine that light and do your best. We see this in Parshat Vayeshev when it says in Bereshit, and Yosef was brought down to Egypt. Now anybody who's reading that is going to see, anybody who can imagine such an event can literally only see tragedy. Yosef is being enslaved and he is brought down to Egypt because of his brothers. They sold him into slavery. He was being taken far away from his father, from his homeland. The reality, though, was that this was the first step towards him being appointed as a commander in Egypt. He would eventually be in charge of the national economy in Egypt, and he would be the mastermind behind the complex program to prepare for the years of famine during the years of abundance. So it could look like such a tragedy, but really it was only good. The situation was only bringing forth more light into the world. I want to share with you a beautiful story that I heard from Yehiel Spiro's book, Touched by a Story Too. It's called A Dose of Medicine. So this is a dose of medicine in our life. Sometimes we are given that dose of medicine. And what does medicine taste like? When we give our children medicine, it tastes bitter. It doesn't taste good. And the doctors put in some flavor to make it taste, tastier for our children. But we know naturally medicine is supposed to be bitter, but eventually it's supposed to help us for the good. So this is a story about Reb Moshe Scherer. His life was legendary. He helped everyone and anyone. He was so dedicated to the Jewish people and helping them all his life. And his dedication and his ability to overcome his challenges in life was dedicated to one woman, his mother, whose name is Mrs. Basia Scherer. This is the following story that his mother related to him, which happened to him when he was little Moshe. So I'm going to call him little Moshe when he was just a little boy. Little Moshe was in his bed, lying there sick, high with fever. His mother did anything and everything to save her little boy, to help him. She was the type of mother who would do anything for her children, just like most mothers are. She was terrified, and he was moaning in pain because nothing that she was doing was helping him. This was in the 1920s, and at that time when you made calls to the doctor was able to make home visits to help. So she called the doctor, and he diagnosed little Moshe as having strep throat. Now, his fever wasn't reducing. She needed strong medication immediately, and she didn't have the funds. She was desperate. She was so desperate to help, and she was so heartbroken for her child that she needed to help him immediately with so little that she had. So she quickly went around her home and quickly collected anything that she had to buy the medicine. And it was the last of what she owned. She quickly rushed to the pharmacy to get the medicine. As she's going to the pharmacy, she's hysterically crying to the assistant, saying she really needs this medicine. She needs it right now. Now the assistant was not the pharmacist, so she said, I'm so desperate. I really need it. She said her whole story in desperation to the assistant, and the kind assistant said, don't worry, I'm going to help you. She didn't have enough. So she didn't have enough to pay. So he said, don't worry, whatever you have, I'll take, and I'll give you the medicine. He gives over the medicine a few minutes later in a bottle, in a paper bag, and she's happily taking it and rushing off home. As she's turning around the corner, now this was in a very busy time in the streets of New York during work hour, the busy work day, and the busy work hours, and she tripped and she fell and she started crying before she was able to realize what was happening, and before she was even able to get up, realizing that the bottle that she was holding had spilled, had crashed, and she was trying to hold whatever contents that were left, and she got up weakly, crying hysterically, rushing back to the pharmacy. At that time, the pharmacist came back. The pharmacist came back and she said, please, please help me. I just came from this pharmacy. My bottle spilled. I don't have any money. I don't have anything. Please, please, please give me the medicine. Please refill it. I'm going to stay after hours to wash the floors for whatever time that's needed. I'll do work for you. Please, I just don't have the money. I need the medicine desperately for my son who's very, very sick, little Moshe. And he heard the entire story. She told him the entire story of what happened to her son. And he said, don't worry, I'm going to help you. He promised her to help her. He goes to the back of the store. He comes back white as a sheet. He is white. And he looks at her and he tells her, Miss, angels are watching over your son. Angels. And she didn't understand. And what happened was, he said, well, I wanted you to know that had your child taken the medicine, it could be fatal. Meaning, the assistant gave her the wrong medicine. And had she taken it, had she given it to her son, he would have probably not made it. He would have probably died. And he gave her the right medicine. He returned her money, and at no extra cost. And she was on her way home. And here she tells the story over when many years later, when little Moshe is a young adult, she tells over the story to him. But the powerful lesson she gave over was the following. The moment that you are facing the greatest time of despair is precisely when Hashem is bringing about salvation. And this is the timeless message he took with him. Now, when he's 71 years old, he's Reb Moshe Sher. It was a lesson he could never forget. At 71 years old, he had a slight pain in his upper chest. He went to the doctor for an appointment to make an angiogram in Maimonides Hospital in Brooklyn. He was so relaxed and unconcerned about the test that he even told his children the day before the test. He didn't tell them right away. The test showed that his main artery to the heart was 98% blocked. The blood flow was not great. It was in horrible condition, and he needed immediate intervention. He needed surgery immediately. And when he heard the news, he was smiling. And his wife didn't get it. Why are you smiling? This is horrific news. This is such a tragedy. He smiled at her and he said, Devorah, remember what my mother always used to say. What we think is a crisis is, in essence, a blessing in disguise. You just wait and see. So what happened was that the surgery was successful and the road to recovery began. He started having a really strict diet, healthy eating, exercise, and soon enough, he was able to feel 10 years younger. However, within the next year, Reb Moshe was diagnosed with cancer. The devastating news crushed his family, but he remained strong. The cancer specialist said they're not sure if they're able to do the chemotherapy treatments if his heart isn't strong. So they tested his heart. and his heart was in great condition to endure the very difficult, intense chemotherapy treatments. His heart was strong. And he said, and he lived for another 4 years. Before he left this world, he turned to his wife and kids and he said, "Remember what my mother taught me. The moment one imagines that he is facing the greatest time of despair is precisely when Hashem is bringing about salvation." That heart blockage saved my life. Because of his difficult uh, heart condition, it was 98% blocked. Yet, because he chose to see the light in the situation, never to give up, to know that there's something bigger waiting for him. He had more years to live. If he would have given up, that's 4 years less. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of things he accomplished in the past next 4 years. He chose to see the light. Not only did he give strength to himself, he gave strength to his wife, to his children, and he's giving strength to us with his powerful story and his powerful message. So remember, my own insight on this is that the lessons that we can learn from this is bring light to your life, bring light to your world. There's so much to offer, yet our backdrop is there is just so much negativity out there where we work, the people who we surround ourselves with, our family members, people who watch the news, constantly telling us what will be, how worse it can get, what can possibly happen. Let's stop cluttering our minds with worries and instead ask ourselves, how can I bring light into this difficult situation, into this challenging situation? And the best way to be a light in any situation is to inspire others by being that light. We can talk from now until tomorrow to other people, giving them life advice. However, the best way to inspire anyone is to be a light, is to be a light, to be that shining light, to be an example for people to look at you, for your family to look at you and say, wow, look how happy she is. Look how challenging her life must be, how much things she has to take care of. And which woman now in this generation doesn't have much to take care of? No matter how many people who are in your family, no matter what your life description is all about, no matter what, it is very hard. It is not easy. Appreciating the insights of Rabbi Zelik Pliskin, Leah Abramov, Being a Becoming, awakening awareness of your greatness and potential.